Welcome to your Aquarius horoscopes for the week of the 5th through the 11th of May. And for the 11th time, let me just go ahead and apologize. There was no horoscopes last week. It was not happening. Okay. I'm so sorry to say this, but it was not happening. And I had to make an educated executive decision. That's where I was going with that. An executive decision to scrap them for the week, unfortunately. That Mercury retrograde towards the end was brutal. It took everything that I had. It was a nightmare from this direction to that direction. All this, I mean, I was exhausted. And rather than try and push out something that just wasn't going to be good, I decided to just skip last week. So I apologize, you guys. I'm really sorry. I am only human after all. And I know that we Aquarians don't like to admit that, but it is true. We are human just like everybody else, even if we are a bit above everybody else. Gotta say, I just sneak that in there. We got Pluto, and Pluto went retrograde last week. So that's really the big thing that happened last week, besides the fact that we are done with the Mercury retrograde. Shadow period over last week. Everything is Mercury retrograde free. But Pluto went retrograde last week. So still 2 degrees in Aquarius. Aquarius's focus is on relationships, but Pluto's focus continues to be on our day-to-day activities, really that schedule there. Talking about schedule disruptions, you have no idea. The last 2 weeks were literal schedule disruptions, but I have to, and of course, there is a shadow period to every retrograde. So there's at least a week or two there in front of when it actually went retrograde on May 2nd last week. So a little bit of a challenge there. Pluto is all about power, is your source of power. It's all about change and transformation. Retrograde feels like you have no power, feels like you can't make changes, like somebody else is ruling everything. And we have a couple of little challenges and literally right at the beginning of the week and right at the end of the week, but some amazement around that. So let's talk about those little challenges there really quick and just get them out of the way because they're really not that important, right? We start off on Sunday with Pluto in a square with Venus as well as the moon, because the moon's pretty close proximity to Venus at the time. And that square with Venus ends literally that's there that day, it's gone the next, which is kind of nice. It was probably more present last week than it is this week. Venus's focus really is on career. So I'm really looking at, this is actually kind of funny, not having done the horoscopes last week. We're looking at not being able to really focus on your career as you should because of other things that are coming in and sort of getting in the way of that. At the very end of the week, Mercury moves into a square with Pluto for its first day, and that's probably going to be a few more days into next week as well. Mercury's focus is on long-term goals at this particular point. So now any kind of ideas that you have around your long-term goals, you're really not going to have a lot of time to be able to pursue those. I would write them down so that you can get back to them later. I always tell my clients, you got ideas, you can't get to them right now, write them down so that you don't forget. Otherwise, you just kind of obsess over it. You worry you're going to lose it. And not all that obsession and worry, you wind up losing it anyways, right? If you write them down, you can get back to it later when you have a little bit more time to focus your energy on that, if that makes sense. Now let's talk about the good news, because we have Jupiter, we have Uranus, we have the sun, all moving into a grand sextile with Pluto, as well as Neptune. Neptune is really focused on finances right now. I'm not wearing my glasses, sorry, I had to look. Pluto is really focused on finances right now, whereas Jupiter, Uranus, the sun, they're all focused on career. So really, when Pluto says sorry you got these ideas for later that you can't focus on them right now. It's because your main focus is what you're doing right now and building on that. And there's a lot of energy going into that specifically. So it's actually, you know, I don't like to get distracted. First of all, I'm easily distracted by myself. I don't need any help. So when other people are coming in and creating distractions for me, it gets really frustrating. Okay. But all of this energy focused on your long-term career goals and what you're doing and building on right now, it's really important to focus on that. Distracting yourself with other ideas for later, that's why it's a good idea to write them down. If you allow yourself to just stop what you're doing and move on to the next thing, you wind up in a space where you never get anything done. I mean, come on. How many of us have really been in that space? Okay. A million freaking times. So, this is a really good reminder for us to not get distracted from what we're focused on right now so that we can make sure that we follow through with what we're doing. And then those long-term goals for later around our business will actually come in helpful and we'll actually have a business to be able to implement those too. You got to think about it in those ways. Very logical ways, of course. And of course, Aquarians are definitely the epitome of logic, right? So that's what I have for you guys. It's actually a very, very good week. Those couple little challenges, really not that big of a deal. More just bringing in reminders for you to kind of, we all have faults. And I think the biggest Aquarian fault is getting distracted to the point where I was using a time management app, which I've since not even touched. It was months ago. Um, but I was using a time management app, and of course, you fill out a whole thing about yourself and your personality so that the app can help you, gear more towards your issues about getting organized and managing your time and things like that. And as I was filling out the whole questionnaire thing, somebody texted me and I went to the text and I didn't even think about it. I was like, I'll just get back to this in a minute. Famous last words, right? And so I got the text and I went and I had a full on conversation, turned into a phone call with my husband for 2 hours and blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, because I left it open on my phone, I happened to swipe past it and it said, how often do you get distracted in a day? Literally, like that's the epitome of my life right there. And I'm sure that I'm not alone in terms of being a very distracted Aquarius. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I'm Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic, the Aquarian heavy metal psychic. I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, you guys, let's make it a great week. Let's do positive forward movement without getting distracted by little stuff because it's just not worth it anymore. Make it a great week. I'll see you next week.